Sztanyo, Klenyo, what's going on? Happy Sunday evening. Welcome into Team Sztanyo Live, where we are talking all things Cincinnati, living in Cincinnati, Cincinnati real estate, national real estate, maybe Cincinnati Bengals, maybe a little blink action, maybe federal funds, interest rates and mortgage rates and houses on the market, all kinds of things. Is the Cincinnati real estate market crashing? We're going to talk about that. We're going to get into the details on what is going on specifically here in Cincinnati. We're going to dig deep. You guys know how I love my charts. And so if you love charts and if you love math, or maybe if you just like money and making wise real estate decisions, we're going to dig into what's going on in the market and whether you're looking to buy or sell, whether it's now or maybe at the end of the year, maybe in spring of 2025, something like that, or in the winter. We'll talk about how to make the best move for you and what you should think about going forward. So we're going to dig into all of that. Big night tonight. Glad to be back. Had a little time on this Sunday afternoon. Things have been crazy. I'm sorry I haven't been super consistent on these YouTube lives. Hopefully we'll get back into that. But we've got a home edition going on. So like every spare minute, it's kind of going towards that. But this weekend we had rain. So we weren't working on the home edition. So I got to come in here and go over these stats and interesting items with you guys. So how are you doing? Let me know. Drop in the chat where you're watching from. Let me know what questions you want answered tonight about the Cincinnati real estate market. I want to start out tonight with popping over here at Blink, looking all lit up. Do we need to talk Bengals, guys? How are you doing after that Ravens loss? Yeah, just an all-around very cool event. So love that. Hope you guys are able to make it down. I'll talk Bengals briefly here. I'm going to give you my 2 cents on the Bengals. Here's the thing. This is a weird season. We are 4-6, but the rest of the AFC is pretty terrible. Pittsburgh apparently keeps winning, but we only have to climb over Indianapolis, Denver, which both of those teams lost today, and the Chargers. We play all of those teams. We play Pittsburgh twice. It's still fully within our grasp. We have not beaten any of the best teams in the league, but we're right there. I mean, we should have won that Baltimore game, right? That was disappointing again, except it was still super fun. All these games, both Baltimore games, the KC game, the Washington game, they've all been like really fun, and our offense is electric, and Jamar Chase and Joe are playing out of their minds. I still think if we get in the tournament, we could win it all. I still think that. Our defense looks bad, but every defense looks bad playing Baltimore, and our defense is going to start looking a lot better because we start playing offenses that aren't that good the rest of the way. So I just think get in the tournament and see what happens, because I think Joe Burrow is playing absolutely incredible. Jamar as well. If you can get Orlando Brown back, I think if both those players play in the Baltimore game, we win that game. You can tell Joe was sped up all game. He still played lights out. But if Orlando Brown's in on that final go for it on 2, do we have a little bit more time in the pocket? If T. Higgins is there, you can go to him instead of Tanner Hudson for a 2-point conversion. So, I think we'll be okay. But it's been a weird year. All right, let's get into some real estate, guys. Let me bring this up. Give me 1 second. Stop that. Percent. All right, here we go. We're going to talk a little bit national, and then we're going to talk local market and get down into the nitty-gritty in the stats. Here's a headline from a national article that came out. Home sales are flatlining amid the affordability crisis. It's affecting down payments. I don't care so much about the down payments as much as I want to show what's happening kind of on a national level. Demand for homes has waned in recent months and quarters as higher mortgage rates combined with continued home price appreciation have sidelined potential buyers because of affordability. It's also kept a significant number of existing homers from listing their homes, a phenomenon called the lock-in effect, as more than half of existing homeowners have a mortgage rate of less than 4%, and a vast majority, 86%, have a rate of 6% or lower, according to real estate or realtor.com. So let me break that down. Here's what's happening. There's still demand for houses. There is still low inventory for houses. However, mortgage rates are in that, around 6.5%, 7% rate, and home prices have continued to go up. Okay. So you've got higher home prices. You've got mortgage rates that have been higher than they were a few years ago. And what's continuing to keep inventory locked down is everyone who's owned a house for maybe 4 years or more, 4 to 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, they locked in at that rate at 4% or lower, or maybe they have their house all the way paid off and they're looking around at the houses. I'll give a perfect example. My parents, they're in their 70s. They bought their home in 1988 and is a 2-story home. They raised 3 sons in it. And, typical Fisher home that was built in 1988 here locally. Great home. We love it. It's been awesome for our family, but they're in their 70s and going up the stairs is a little bit harder and they're thinking about downsizing. But when they looked at the homes out on the market, first level homes, they might need to buy something for 500 or 600, whereas they could sell theirs for, I don't know, 450, something like that. And they're kind of like, I don't know, do I want a smaller lot? Do I want to be looking at my neighbors when I can just maybe put a chair in to go up to my, like an electric chair up the stairs or something like that? They don't need that yet, but they might need that down the road. And so that, just multiply that by basically, I don't know, 5, 10, 20 million around the country. And you've got a lot of people who are like, why should I sell my house and buy something that's not quite as good? And there are some reasons why people would do it, but that's one reason keeping inventory down lower. You couple that with higher affordability or higher home prices, interest rates staying up, and it's like things are stagnating a little bit. You're hitting that affordability ceiling. So let's keep looking into this article here. Whoops. Holy cow. There we go. All right. Let me try to bring this a little higher or a little larger. Okay. Less buyer competition overall is seen as the primary reason for quarterly decline in down payments. Existing home sales dropped 1% on a monthly basis in September to a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 3.84 million, according to data released by the NAR. Sales in September were down 3.5% from the same month a year ago. Despite weaker buying activity, home prices keep rising. The median existing home price in September was $404,500. Now that's national, up 3% from the same time a year ago, according to NAR. It's a bit unusual seasonally for down payments to decline in the third quarter. Okay, again, this article is more about down payments. What I care about more and kind of talking to you guys is the fact that home prices continue to rise, even though demand is dampening a little bit. And so I want to let you know what that looks like here on a local level in Cincinnati. Is the market going to crash? Probably not, because again, there's still that demand and there's still low inventory. It's a complete reversal from where we were in 2008, 9, and 10, when you had tons of real estate inventory. And then when the bubble burst, it's like, oh man, you've got all these houses on the market and no one to buy them. And we're kind of like in a flip situation. We have been for the last several years. So is the market going to crash? No, unlikely. But I do want to show you what's happening in the trends. So let's dig down a little deeper into the stats. Alex is asking, do you have any details on downtown Cincinnati stats? Looks like condos have been on the market for 100 plus days. Yeah, I don't have that pulled up exactly. We're going to look at all 4 counties here on the Ohio side. So Hamilton, Claremont, Warren, and Butler. But not only condos downtown, but basically everything we're seeing where houses are sitting on the market for longer. So we're going to get into that in depth here. You're not wrong to see that. And that what that actually does is presenting quite a few opportunities for buyers, opportunities that I would say you haven't had in multiple years, buying opportunities where you can get homes for under list price. You're seeing more and more price reductions from sellers. So I would say right now is probably the best buying opportunity that I've seen for buyers in terms of having control in the market in the last 4 to 5 years. Now, the downside to that is home prices are way up from where they were 4 or 5 years ago. But in terms, if you're waiting and you're like, I'm going to time the market, or I'm waiting for a market to crash, or I'm waiting for the bubble to burst, you've lost out. A, you've lost out on a ton of equity the last few years. And B, I would say right now is probably the best time for you to buy that has been in 4 or 5 years. All right, let's get into these stats and show you guys what the heck I'm actually talking about here. Let me make this a little bigger for you. 1 second. Okay. So I'm going to show you multiple stats here. First, we're going to look at the median price. Then we're going to look at the amount of units that have sold. Then we're going to stack those charts one over the other. Then we're going to look at days on market and the amount of inventory that's on the market. for under contract. And lastly, we're going to look at price reductions. So we're going to fly through this. I'm super pumped. Who doesn't like looking at charts? See if I can make this a little bigger for you guys. All right, here we go. First chart we're looking at is the median price sold. Again, this is here in the Cincinnati market. We are looking at Claremont, Butler, Warren, and Hamilton County over the last 2 years. So going back all the way to October 2022, the median price for a home, median sales price was $253,000. Fast forward 2 years, and we're at $296,000, and that is up. I want to say, from comparing those two time periods or the linear chart, it's up 20% over the last 2 years. Currently, this October is looking at this linear growth chart over the last 2 years. The peak of the market was here in, let's see here, looks like July of 2024. You can see May, June, and July are all pretty close, and it got as high as 312,000. Now, what we're going to see here, and this is why I want to show you why I'm saying this is a good time for you as a buyer. Give me 1 second here. Is that we're hitting that seasonality here in the Cincinnati market. So if you look back here in 2022, you see October, November, and then you see it dip down into December and January before it picks up again in February, March, April, and then you're getting the hottest and the highest median sale price is going to be May, June, July, usually. Same thing happens in 2023. So you look at October 23, then you see it dip down in November, median sales price. You see it dip down further in December, and you see it dip down the farthest in January. Where it starts to pick up again is February 24 and March, and then you get into, again, the spring and summer buying season. So here we are in October of 24, and we're seeing kind of the same thing. It hit kind of its peak in May, June, July, dipping down in August, September, October. I'm going to expect the median sales price in November to be lower, December to be lower, January to be lower, before it picks back up again in February of 2024. That is a typical season that we see in the Cincinnati area. So why is that? A couple of reasons why you see prices dip down in October, November, December. Number one, you've got less buyer demand. And so just simple economics, when you see less demand, prices go down. So most people are locked into the school year in terms of families. And even if you're not selling a house that's for a family, so let's talk about those condos or even higher price houses or townhomes or something like that, those sellers still kind of they're going to trend along the lines of the seasonality here in the Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky market, meaning they want to sell in May, June, July as well, because they're going to get the highest price. You've got the most amount of buyers that are out in that time frame. And so that greater demand lifts up the price. You also get the most amount of inventory and the most amount of sellers in that time period. So right now we just hit daylight saving time. People are kind of locked into that school year. So a lot of families they don't really want to move unless you have to. Most families are kind of locked down in for the year. It's darker. It's going to get colder, although it's been an unseasonably warm autumn, which has been very nice and great for my home edition, I must say. But it's definitely going to get colder. As you head into December and January, obviously you're heading into winter and the cold months. So it's dark. It's cold. You've got the holidays. So you've got Thanksgiving, you've got Christmas and New Year's. And so you've just got less buyers overall. And so what does that mean? It doesn't mean you can't buy a house and you can't sell a house. It just means the overall amount that is selling in this time frame is less. So if you're a seller, you need to realize that. Like if you need to sell right now, you can still sell your house, but you got to be very careful because the tides are turning. The shift in the market is definitely happening. There's less demand because we're hitting so high of home prices, and we're just buyers are hitting that affordability ceiling. If you're getting ready to sell your home, or if you need to sell your home this fall or in the winter, you gotta be super sensitive to where you're pricing that thing. Now on the flip side, if you're a buyer, this is the best time for you to buy. Okay. From now, basically through January is your time to buy. If you're okay buying in the dark, if you're okay buying in the cold, another reason why seasonality happens is like, the leaves fall down, everything's brown, everything turns gray and brown, and it really doesn't switch until spring where all the blossoms happening and everything turns green again. And so sellers want to sell their house when it looks pretty, when the flowers are blooming, when the grass is green, when the skies are blue. The pictures are going to look better in that. So what does that mean in terms of let's talk about the amount of units that are sold. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Take a quick drink here. Okay, so this is supply and demand. This is units. This is actually not sold. This is units for sale. We'll look at units sold next. But units for sale, and here's the big idea that I want you guys to get from this chart, okay? You can see a giant trend line happening in 2024. Now, it's not overwhelming, and when we get here, when we get to here, which is months supply of inventory, a balanced market is 6 months of inventory. The highest we've hit in the last 2 years is 2 months of inventory, okay? And right now we're sitting currently around 1.6 months of inventory, and I'll explain that in just a minute. So it's not a balanced market yet in the sense that buyers have more control, but you can see the trend line here, right? A pretty big and steady trend line where more and more inventory is hitting the market for sale, which gives you, the buyer, more and more control. So the more inventory that's on the market, as that starts, creeping up, you're seeing longer days on market. You're seeing more and more price reductions from sellers. It's the first time in several years that you can actually, you don't have to like waive inspections and, mortgage your firstborn child basically to get a house. And that's great, especially in 2021, 2022, that was so hard. 23 dipped down a little bit, and 2024, it slowed down a little bit more. There's more inventory creeping up. Houses are sitting on the market longer. You're seeing more and more price reductions. And if you do go to put in an offer, you can put in an offer below list price. And I'm seeing buyers win that quite often, both on the resale side and on the new construction side. And I'm going to show you guys some new construction homes, because I'm getting emails from builders all the time right now. Like Fisher Homes right now, it's like, it's our Red Bow sales event. They've got all this inventory that they need to move. And so I think I just published a video on this week. If you guys haven't seen it, go watch my $400,000 video that I just did. It's in Northern Kentucky, but the same principles apply to Cincinnati as well. And I was able to get both in the same week, a resale buyer and a new construction buyer. We were both in that $400,000 range. I got both of those buyers under list price by $20,000. So this is great news if you're a buyer. And I know a lot of you watching this channel are buyers, and you're like, hey, I'm looking all over the country. I'm thinking about Cincinnati or Northern Kentucky. I know it's still affordable compared to my market here in Illinois or Washington or California or New York or Michigan or Florida or Texas or Nashville. A lot of people are, have been moving to the Midwest because of the affordability. And now you're kind of just shopping, all right, which city do I want to go to in the Midwest? You might be looking at Indianapolis or Columbus or Cleveland, St. Louis, Pittsburgh, even something like that. And obviously, go to the city that has Joe Burrow. It's like really easy. Have some fun with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Okay, so here's so I just want to show you that is looking that inventory is stacking up, and that's great. There's more houses on the market for sale. So now let's move over to this chart. Let me zoom in a little bit. So this is showing us supply and demand. So the red is the same chart that we just saw of the amount of inventory for sale. So you can see that same trend line going up. And the green is the amount of units sold. Okay. Now over the last, here's the discrepancy I want to see. The amount of units for sale is up 34%, whereas the amount of units sold is 14%. So why is that? Why are we seeing more units for sale and less sold? Well, the answer is that affordability issue, right? The answer is home prices have continued to go up over the past few years. And so now we're starting to see more houses on the market, but you're not necessarily seeing more sold. That demand has been tamped down because home prices have gone up so much. And those mortgage interest rates are hanging out in the 6s and 7s, and they're not down in those 2s, 3s, and 4s that they were for the last several years. So higher home prices plus higher mortgage rates means that demand is there. People want to buy houses, but it's just, it's like hard. It's a harder affordability issue than it was just a few years ago. So that's why we're seeing, the amount of inventory creep up, but not necessarily. I mean, we are seeing more sold, but not like a ton more, right? You're seeing a bit of a gap. So you can see if you look at this green linear line, there is slow growth there in terms of the amount of units sold compared to 2023, but not as much as we're seeing the amount of inventory on the market. And that's what that red line is right there. Makes sense? If this doesn't make sense, let me know. But feel free to leave your questions in the chat as we're going along there. Hopefully this is helping you guys out. And if you're watching this later, obviously drop a comment in, and I read all the comments. I try to reply to all the comments. So feel free to drop that about this video or any other questions you have around Cincinnati or living here. Okay. Next chart we're looking at is month supply of inventory. So I hit on this briefly just a few seconds ago. But a normal real estate market is when there's 6 months of inventory, meaning it's a balanced market between buyers and sellers. We have been in a seller's market for we've been in a seller's market for my entire real estate career, which started in early 2018. So there's always been more demand than there has been inventory on the market. Now, you switch that, and in fact, I'll show you guys what a buyer's market looks like real quick. Let me flip over to this chart. Okay. So this is median sale prices of houses sold right here in 07, 08. This is where you had a seller's market. I'm sorry. This is where you had a buyer's market, because we had the Great Recession right here in 07 and 08. And you had all this inventory on the market and prices actually dropped. This was the only time that we've seen beyond the Great Depression where prices dropped significantly. And it took about 5 years to get back to where you were. And so I just want to say something really quick. Okay. I just want to speak to the idea of a real estate crash and trying to time the market. There have basically been 2 times in the history of the United States where housing prices have dropped dramatically, where there's been a dramatic house crash. That's the Great Depression and the Great Recession. And in both of those timeframes, in both of those instances, it took about 5 years for housing prices to recover to where they were. And I'm talking about historical cataclysmic, is that the word? Cataclysmic. Someone can let me know. My vocabulary is not that great, guys. I'm a real estate agent. Okay. I'm not an attorney. So, but in both of those events, it took about 5 years for the real estate prices to recover. So, even if you're scared to death that the housing market's going to crash, even if it does, a big part of that equation for you is how long do you plan to stay in that house? If you have any reasonable chance that you might stay in that house for 5 years or longer, then even in the worst case scenario that we've ever seen historically in the United States, you can weather that storm if you live in that house for 5 years. Remember, even if the price goes down, you don't realize that price going down unless you sell the house, right? Unless you have to sell the house. Just like stocks, like, you don't realize the loss on a stock unless you actually sell the stock. Same thing with housing prices. So I just want to throw that out there and just show you again, this is the one time that we've seen in the last, 90 yeyears where housing prices went down significantly. And if you missed the boat, like look at the housing prices you missed out because you were waiting. I'm so frustrated, or I feel so sad for some of my buyers who are like, I talked to early in COVID. They're like, yeah, I just want to time the market. I want to time the market. I want to time the market. I want to time the market. Bam, 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 bam. And they like missed out on all of this equity because they're like, yeah, I think it's a bubble. It's going to crash. It's going to burst. I'm like, I'm very sad for you. I'm not very sad for you. So this is private. This is something else. So that was the big one I want to show here in terms of prices going down. But look at this chart. Just look at the chart of housing prices. Like, are they going to go up or down? What do you guys think? Like just looking at this historical chart going back to 1965. And so if you're trying to time the market, I just want to breathe cautiously to you. So going back, okay, to this chart right here. And we, like I said, in the last 2 years, the highest amount of month supply of inventory was 2 months. And again, what that means is if no new inventory came on the market, every single home would sell within 2 months. Okay. And that dropped down significantly. And the reason why, just go back here. The reason why this went way up here last year is that's when we had a big spike in interest rates. Okay. So at the end of summer is when they really pumped up. So a lot of buyers stayed out of the market. Then they're like, whoa, because it went from like 5% up to all the way up to 8. It hit a high of 8. And they're like, that was really scary. And it put a lot of buyers on the sideline. And then if you look, here in January, February, they came down quite a bit, and the Fed was indicating that they were going to come down. And so a lot of people came early on this year and bought in January and February. Going back to this chart of when homes sold, a lot of them started selling in February because people were actually buying them in January. So you see a lot were sold in February and in March early on this year. And then it kind of actually dipped down a little bit in the summer because, most, buyers were being told like, we're dropping the rates, and they did come down a little bit, but then they stayed up. And the Fed was like, we're going to drop them 3 times this year. And they just like kind of didn't. So, so that's where you see why there's so much inventory kind of backed up in the winter of last year. Then it came down. But now the last several months, similar, it's been creeping back up again. Days on market here, which is this dark blue line chart with the squares. That, let's see here. Again, that hit a low this year. And this is, I think, median days on market or average days on market. So that includes everything. I think that includes cumulative days of inventory as well. And so, as you might expect, it was its lowest in kind of the spring and summer months here, kind of hit below 15. And then what's been happening since June, July, August, September, October, you've seen it creep up every single month to where it's at about 23 days, average days on market right now. So if you're seeing that, if you're out there and you're noticing that houses are sitting on the market longer, and if you've been watching this for a couple of years now, you're like, this is weird. Everything's not selling within 2 days. You're right. Like, you are right. Now, does that mean there are no houses selling in the first 2 days? No. I've got buyers who are in multiple offers right now on a home in Villa Hills, Kentucky. So we've got an offer in, and I'm hoping we get it. We're waiting to hear back, but we are in multiple offers. Because if the home is priced right, if it's in good condition, if it's staged well, and it's in a good neighborhood, that you're still going to see multiple offers on those homes. Now you're probably not going to see 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 multiple offers. You might see 2 or 3 offers. Okay. So it's even on the ones that are selling quick, the competition has lowered quite a bit, but there are a lot more houses that are sitting on the market longer and longer. So I say this to you out there in the YouTube world. And I said this last year. Okay. I said this last year. I was like, look, I was especially saying it in November and December. I'm like, this is the best time to buy a house from a pricing standpoint. Okay. Now I understand from a life standpoint, buying a house and moving during Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's and winter is challenging. But if you are uber price conscious, if you are a price conscious shopper, and that's your number one thing, then right now through December is your best time of the year to buy. Okay. I promise you that, because prices, well, again, I don't have a crystal ball, and anything can happen, economy wise going next year. So all this could change, but seasonally and historically, when you look at this, what you're going to see, what you're more than likely going to see is supply of inventory continue to rise here. I'm actually a little surprised that it dipped down here in October, but I expect it to go back up in November and December from a month supply of inventory. And I expect going back to supply and demand, I expect more inventory on the market here. And I expect this median sales price to come down a little bit. How do I know that? I've been doing this for several years. So what is up, aka Crazy Russian? Good to see you. Appreciate your comments on the recent videos. So glad to have you on here. Okay, so just a few final charts. This one is days on market for under contract properties. So similar chart here than the last one. But the final chart I want to show you guys here, and then we'll look at maybe a few homes for sale. I pulled up some stuff on the new construction side because I want to show you that it's not just resale, but new construction. But this chart right here is average SP to OP. So that is sale price to original price comparison. The dark blue is if there was no price changes, and the light blue is if there was one price change or more. And the big idea I want to show you on this chart is if there was no price change, even currently, sellers are still roughly getting list price. They're getting 100.2% of the sale price to the original price. In fact, on average, they are over the list price still. So you still can see it for over list price. But if you had to drop the price at least once, this is what I want you guys to see. You see this this gap right here from the dark blue to the light blue. That means you're getting deals, and the average here is 95.4%. So you're able to get a price reduction of around 5% off the list price. Okay. Or off the original price, I should say. That's the average. So that's what I'm trying to tell you guys is like, now's the time to buy. If you go back the last few years, October, November, December, January, February is where you see the gap. And then March, April, May, June, July, you don't see that gap, right? Same thing here. It starts to go down August, September, October, November, December, January, big gap. Now, again, this January closing is because you're shopping in December. Okay. So the data is lagging a month, right? Because it usually takes about 30 days to close. So the biggest gap is in January. So what I'm saying, and December and even February. So this fall and winter months, from a price gap standpoint, from a price reduction, and from you being able to get a home below list price, if you are price sensitive, now's the time to shop. Okay. I'm going to say that again. If you are price sensitive, now is the best time of year for a buyer. Now, the downside is there's less inventory out there than in the spring. But as you saw from that previous chart, that inventory is growing month over month. Traditionally, seasonally, there's going to be less sellers. And typically what we see is on average in these months, in terms of units sold, it's down about 25, 30% from the average of the year. And then in those spring, summer months of, April, May, June, July, it's up about 30% on the average for the year. So, there's less units sold overall. But what we're seeing as a buyer, I'm just trying to tell you guys, okay, take it for what it's worth. I'm a real estate agent and I get paid if you buy a house. However, I like helping my buyers save money. And so I just looking at this is the data. I'm just trying to show you the data. Okay. You guys can interpret it as you wish. But I'm interpreting it for you. And I'm telling you that from now until, really January, February is like the time to get price reductions and to make an offer on a house below list price and get that house under contract. So if you like saving money, now's the time. Sellers, different strategy. Okay. If you need to sell a house, talk to me, because we've got a crazy, awesome marketing strategy that we roll out. The pricing strategy is critically important right now because we are in a shifting market and we're hitting that affordability ceiling really high. So you got to change your expectations a little bit, sellers. Just because you put it on the market doesn't mean you're going to get multiple buyers instantly. And that kind of was the case the last several years. Yes. Greetings from Anderson. What's up? That's awesome. Glad to have you on here. Okay. So I just want to show a few more things and then I'm going to bounce out here. And what time is it? All right. We're working through pretty quickly tonight. If you guys want to talk more Bengals, I'm happy to talk more Bengals here, but I want to just prove my point a little bit further here. Okay. So this is bouncing over to Fisher Homes. I mentioned we're seeing price reductions on resale homes, but we are also seeing it with new construction. Actually, I'm just going to take myself off of here so you guys can see this. They're having their Red Bow sales event. Save up to $52,000 on your new homes. All right. I just wanted you guys to see this little graphic. By the way, realtor alert. Okay. And by the way, thank you. So many of you have gotten this memo, but if you put your name and phone number in here and you sign up on Fisher's website or Dreeza's website, or you go to a model home, and you fill out a form and you don't say you're working with a real estate agent yet, it's going to be extremely difficult for you. I'm going to say this again because I might clip this later. Okay. But I'm going to say this again. If you fill out a form on a builder's website, or if you speak to a builder rep at a model home and you don't tell them at that very first appointment that you want to work with a real estate agent or who your real estate agent is, should be this guy, then it's going to be really difficult for you to add a real estate agent later. Builders are very comfortable paying a real estate agent a commission if we bring them the lead. Okay. So if what they call it is the threshold meeting, meaning the very first meeting. Okay. The very first appointment. And that includes filling out a form on a website. I had, unfortunately, a buyer contact me like about a week or so ago, and they're like, hey, I'm a real estate agent up in Pennsylvania, and I'd like to split commission with you, but we already filled out a form and we're talking with him and we already had an appointment. And basically we got boxed out. I'm like, sorry, like I would have totally given you a referral fee had we done the deal and had we worked on the new home. But because you met with them first, if you're going to move forward, now there are some ways around it. If you've already talked to them and you've already filled out a form and your timeline is not super sensitive, talk to me. I can tell you kind of some ways around that. But what are the benefits of having a real estate agent working with a builder? The benefits are you're building a brand new house, and that's great. Brand new houses are awesome. New roof, new furnace, new air conditioner, new water heater, new flooring, new paint, new kitchen, new bathrooms. That's really fun. That's really exciting. However, things still go wrong when you build a house. And if you're only working with a builder, then you're the one that has to make that fight all the way through during the building process, potentially after the building process, if you have warranty issues. But if you have a real estate agent, especially if you have a real estate agent where the builders are paying for it, you're getting the best of both worlds, because I can do that fighting for you. I can coach you on inspections. I can kind of coach you on how to have the conversations with the builder if they're not doing everything the way you exactly planned for it or paid for or made in your selections. That's my job. I get to kind of yell at the builder for you. I mean, now we want to have a good working relationship with them, obviously, but that takes the pressure off of you, because that's my job, is to look out for your best interest. So if you can have that and the builder's going to pay for it, then do that. Okay. Rant over. You guys have probably heard that rant from me 1,000 times. I have to keep saying it because I know new people come to the channel. Okay. So don't fill out this form if you want a real estate agent to work for you alongside of the builder. You're going to get this. You're going to get the same, if not a better experience, because you're going to have both of us. You're going to have the builder and an agent working for you, and the builder is going to pay for the commission. So it doesn't cost you anything else. All right, let's look at some of these. Red Bow sales event. Now this says through November 15th, time's running out, but look at these, 949,000 house, $30,000 slash, $42,000 savings, $30,000 savings on this Grandin. Where is this at? In Liberty Township, Deerfield Township, Pierce Township, save 50 grand. Oh, by the way, this Everett, I love this floor plan. This is a really cool floor plan. I really like this Everett. You can save 50 grand on this Everett. I love this neighborhood, by the way, too. Out here in Pierce Township. So that one was 649. It's down to 599.9. 599.9. Act now. This one's down $42,000. Okay. Now look, all of these homes, guys, if you bought them in the summer, you're paying this full price. So I'm just trying to prove the fact to you. You can save 42 grand on this one, 9,000 on this condo, or townhome, I should say, in Westchester. Harrison, Ohio, you're saving 42 grand. Harrison, Ohio, saving 37 grand. Coleraine Township, $25,000 savings. Same thing is going to happen. I can pull this up in Northern Kentucky. Let's see here. Whoops. What did I do? I'm going to come back here. But you guys can see what I'm saying here, right? $47,000, $25,000 savings on a condo. These are not small savings, okay? And so what I'm trying to tell you guys on this is it's not just the resale homes, though you will see that. You'll see price reductions, but also the builders are doing price reductions. They've got these inventory. These are all their move-in ready homes. They want to get these homes off the books because they want to sell the homes for the new prices to the new people next year. Okay. So if you're thinking new construction, now is a great time. If you're thinking resale, now is a great time. We're seeing the price reductions on both sides. And the same thing's happening with Drees. I can show you guys this. I just got emailed this tonight. Here are homes with Drees. Now this isn't the website, but you can see this was $619 down to $589, $599 down to $564, $859. That's down 10. That's down 10. That's down 5. Lame. That's down 10. So not quite as high on some of these. Here's a 20 grand savings. Here's a 40 grand savings on these townhomes. That one went up. That's weird. That doesn't seem like a good deal. So you're seeing some of this in Drees, and here's some of their move-in. I think these are all the low maintenance homes. 414 down 388, 419 down 391. Same things happening on the Kentucky and the Ohio side. Looks to me right now like Fisher has some of the greater savings. Let me see if I can find this in Kentucky. Red Bow event, Fisher Homes, Northern Kentucky. Here we go. Move-in ready homes. All right. What do we got? Available now. It says Red Bow, but it's not showing me savings. What's going on here? Move-in ready. Well, this is why I try to do prep on the front end. I'm sure there are savings, guys. Let me see. Let me click into one of these. 419, buy now, immediate. I don't know. I don't know what's up with that on the Kentucky side, but or why that's not loading, because I know for a fact. Let me try to bring up an email here, because my man Luke sent me one. Quick move-in homes. Give me 1 second, guys. Open in a new tab. Bring this over here. Huh. You know what? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I know there's got to be deals on these, but it's not showing, at least in this marketing. So it says, I can find that out. If you're interested in Northern Kentucky, let me know. But definitely on the Ohio side, you're seeing some big old savings. So this Red Bow event. So I just want to show you guys that proving that out. Again, you're going to see this on the resale side as well. You're going to see it both on the resale side and the new construction side. Big savings right now from now through December. It's a good time to buy. So is the real estate market in Cincinnati crashing? There's a little bit of a clickbaity title, not going to lie, and a thumbnail. No, it's not crashing. However, it definitely has been slowing down. It definitely has been shifting. If you are a seller, you better rethink your thinks. And you got to get really strategic around where you're pricing your house and your marketing strategy. Make sure you work with a real estate agent who understands what's happening in the market. Otherwise, you're going to overprice your home. It's going to sit on the market a long time. You're going to have to do a price reduction. And then buyers are going to be asking for way low. You're going to lose thousands of dollars. Trust me. So make sure you're working with a team that has a proper marketing strategy, because we reach out to everyone in your neighborhood. We're going to do our best to get you those multiple offers. All right. Couple comments coming in. The houses are selling fast in Northern Kentucky. It depends on where. U2F key user. Appreciate the comment. Yeah, it depends on like I said before, it depends on the condition. It depends on the pricing. Just because we're seeing it creep up doesn't mean that houses aren't still selling fast. There are still houses selling fast. We're just seeing more and more stack up of inventory overall. And we're seeing more and more homes that are sitting for 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks. And now those are the houses. They're probably not in the best condition, or they might be overpriced. And so you as a buyer, you need to realize, like, if you go after one of those, there's going to be some quirks. There might be some updating still need to be done on those, because the ones that are in really good shape, the ones that maybe have been renovated recently and that are priced right, those can still go in multiple offers. So don't get me wrong. It's not like it's a total buyer's market right now. It's not. However, it is the best market it is the best market for buyers that I've seen in, like I said, 4 or 5 years, since before COVID. So the downside to that is that house prices are way up. So if you were looking to buy in 2019, you're like, oh, I'll just wait. Or 2020, I'll just wait. It's going to burst. Kind of missed out on that one. But again, going back, let me pull this up again. Going back to this chart, which way are median prices of houses going to go? Like just looking at this chart historically here, more than likely they're going to keep going up. And by the way, there's one other chart I want to show you here, which is interest rates. Because this is the other thing I hear a lot from buyers is like, I just want to time the market. I just want to time it. I'm waiting for interest rates to come down. Well, first of all, if you know how to time the market, good luck. U2F, yeah, Florence. Yeah, I mean, Florence, and I just launched a video on Florence. So it's one of the more affordable cities that has a lot of amenities in Northern Kentucky. So, you can still see houses go fast in Florence. So going back to this chart really quick. So this is average interest rates. And you can see here, going back in the 1990s, these rates are at 10, 11, 9. And then they started falling, in the mid 90s, and they came down 8, 7, 7, 7, 7, down into the 6s in 05, kept falling down 4, 4s, 4s, down into the 3s, down into 2. Now, is this normal? Guys, looking at this chart over the last, 50 years? No, this is the anomaly, right? This is the anomaly. And so right where we are right now at the 6s and 7s, we're at the average. Just praise God that you didn't have to buy a house in 1981. Oh, that's my birthday. October 1981. When interest rates were 18.5%. Can you imagine? Can you imagine trying to buy a house then? I don't want to hear your whining, guys. 18.5% interest rates. That was rough. That was rough back then. Okay. So where we are right now, 6 and 7s, is like, look, guys, this is pretty average historically. Okay. Could they come back down? Yeah, they could maybe come down into the 6s or mid 5s or something like that. Could they go up? Yeah, they could go up. And this is the chart that shows you that they could go up to 8s, 9s, 10s, 18s, right? Okay. So we don't want you guys to do that. We don't want you to wait on a house to do that. Alex says, I'm waiting until the convention center work is done before moving. I get it. But you've heard my warnings, Alex. You've heard what I said. And U2F key users have been trying hard to buy a multifamily in Florence or in Erlanger, nothing pops up. Yeah, we're talking mostly residential tonight. And under 4 units is residential. A duplex, triplex, or a quad. So, I get it. Like there's not a lot of that. And if when they do pop up, they're often going really fast, even if they're in bad condition or, not managed properly, because, I would say just like word's gotten out kind of on the residential side, and people have been moving here from all over the country, like I said, I work with a lot of people from California, Texas, New York, Washington, Oregon, like I said, Florida, Nashville, Georgia, Michigan, Illinois, Minnesota, Wisconsin. A lot of people have come here because it's affordable comparatively. Same thing on the multifamily side, right? Investors, the thing about Cincinnati in general is it's a very stable real estate market. And so the last few years, some markets went crazy, and when markets do shift and they start turning, they go down really low. Now, going back to the Great Recession, Cincinnati typically does, we grew a lot for us the last few years, but we're usually not like the craziest, hottest market. We were hot in terms of days on market, but we weren't the hottest market in the nation in terms of appreciation. And so that's kind of what we are. This is a stable market. And I kind of ping it to, I don't know, historically, it's like we're in the middle of the country. We're somewhat average And I mean that in a good way. But we typically don't get too hot as a market. We typically don't get too cold as a market. So that's very attractive. That's very attractive for people who want to put down roots and don't want wild swings in a market. And they know that the economy is diverse enough where they can find jobs here. Their kids can find jobs here. I mean, this is why I'm staying here in Cincinnati. My family's from Michigan originally, but my parents grew up in kind of more small town, farmland, some manufacturing, but not a ton. And as farms kind of institutionalized and went to like giant farms across the country, a lot of that economy dried up, and all of my parents' generation, a lot of them moved away from there. And so I asked my grandpa, like, hey, all three of your kids moved away. How what was that like for you? He's like, it sucked. It was terrible. He didn't say that it sucked. He has more dignity than me. But he was like, yeah, what? But he basically said, what could they do? They had to go get jobs. And I was like, I was so heartbroken over that. Because growing up, I got to see my grandparents, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 times a year. And it was a 5, 6, 7-hour drive to get there. We loved seeing them. We had great visits, but we weren't nearby. And so when I heard that answer, and I've got a brother who lives in Michigan now, and I've got a brother who lives here locally in Amelia. And I looked at my Amelia brother, and my oldest brother was like, let's go farm the farm. And I'm like, like, I love the farm. I want to keep it in the family, but I also want to be by my kids and my grandkids. And I'm concerned that the same thing would happen with my kids if we become farmers, that they would move out for jobs. And I want to be by my kids and grandkids. And so I looked at my middle brother. I'm like, look, Cincinnati's it for us. Like, we're staying here. We're putting down roots. And he was like, yeah, I'm in on that. So we're locking it down here, and Cincinnati's a great city for that. Now, for all those same reasons I just mentioned, it's why it makes it a great rental market as well. Not too high, not too low, fairly affordable, stable cash flow. And so if you're trying to buy a duplex, triplex, or quad, that's challenging. That's challenging right now as well. So there's a long-winded answer for UTF key user for you saying it's hard to pop up anything. Do I know the reserves of Anderson on 4 Mile Road? Yeah, I do. Cool area over there. I like it a lot. I lived in Anderson. I don't know if you knew that. I lived in Anderson from 2000 and actually I was slightly in Claremont County, and then I moved into Anderson. So I guess technically I lived from 03 to 07. I lived close to Amelia. I lived in Withamsville. And then I bought my first house in 07 on Clough Pike in Anderson Township. And we were Young Life leaders, my wife and I, and we used that house as a Young Life house. We called it the Roosevelt because it was built in Roosevelt's administration. And it was awesome. That was a great house used for ministry for a lot of years. Finally sold that. I think we sold that in 2021. But it was, we used that as a rental for other Young Life leaders for years. But Anderson's a great place. Now we're back on the Kentucky side because that's where our parents were, and we love it. My wife and I both grew up in Northern Kentucky, and we're going to die in Northern Kentucky more than likely. Do you recommend buying a lot and building a duplex? Have you ever done it? Good question. I have never done it. I would not recommend it. The question is, finding the land, obviously, and then finding the right builder. It's not a bad idea. I'm trying to think of anyone I know who is doing that. And most of my friends who are investors are buying, greater units, like maybe like 8+ type units. And most investors that I'm seeing building multifamily are building larger apartments as well. So I haven't seen it done. It's a great question. I've got a few investor friends that I want to ask about that now. One thing you might want to consider with that specifically is, I know you said looking at Florence, and I love Florence from a rental market standpoint for being around the airport and just all the growth that's there. And I grew up in Florence. I know Florence very well. My parents still live in Florence. I like Florence a lot, always have been. So, one thing you might want to consider though is check out the connected communities on the Cincinnati side, because they changed their zoning laws, and they're trying to incentivize a lot of infill development of duplexes or townhomes or row houses on these lots inside of the city limits. And they changed their zoning to you know, they kind of eased up on the parking restrictions that you need for new construction, for new units. So check out that. I'm not trying to push you Cincinnati one way or the other, but that's something you might want to check out. No, I did not know. I will make video question for you, I hope, this week. Awesome. Cool. All right, guys. I think that's going to wrap it up. I hope that was helpful for you. Bengals talk. Let me just talk. I'm going to get a little bit more off my chest. We've got a little time off this week. It's kind of nice to have a breather. Chargers next week, Sunday Night Football. We've got to be pretty flawless the rest of the way. I think we got to go. How many games do we have left? We're 4-6, so we have 7 games left. I thought we needed to go 6-1. I think maybe if we beat the right teams, specifically if we beat Denver, Chargers, and who else is in front of us? We don't play Indianapolis. If we beat Denver, Chargers, and specifically the 2 Pittsburgh games, which might be hard to win both of those, then I think you might only need to win 5 games, 5-2. But even so, 5-2, 6-1. I think the odds are like 25% we get in. But if we get in, we're going to make some noise. I'm telling you, I still think UTF, you're welcome. Happy to share. I still think that if the Bengals get in, they're going to make some noise. The Super Bowl is in New Orleans, LSU country. What better script could there be than the Bengals slow start, down and out, can't win the big games, lose to KC, lose to Baltimore twice. Refs have been against us. Joe Burrow not getting the roughing the passing calls. If they go on a run, and then in the playoffs, they go into Baltimore, they knock them off. They go into Kansas City, they knock them off. They get down to New Orleans, and Jamar and Joe go off, and we get some catch, score, gritty action. I'm here for it. I would love to see it. So, hooday, Bengals fans. All right, guys. Appreciate you watching. I hope this was helpful for you. If you haven't already, please thumbs up the video. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, all the things. But thumbs up helps get this out there for more people. Leave a comment. Thanks for all of you guys jumping in the chat. Love interacting with you, and was glad to be able to get here on a Sunday night. Try to do more of these more consistently in the future. And yeah, appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one.